TikTok is being banned right now and we are all going to die, is what I would say within the first 5 seconds of this video to grab your attention. But now that I have it, let's talk about the proposed TikTok ban that has passed the House and has also now passed the Senate and has been signed into law by Joe Biden. But I'm sure I'm already preaching to the choir at this point because the news of TikTok possibly being banned has been on the lips of every news channel, political pundit, podcaster, and TikTok influencer since the bill was passed about a month ago. But while some people may cheer on their least favorite, most addictive drug of an app finally being wiped out from their life, I'm afraid that the damage of TikTok is already done, both as a security threat and as a social media company. But what would this ban do, and how is it too late? Let's talk about the TikTok ban. Okay, so what is really happening? Well, on March 5th, 2024, Republican Mike Gallagher introduced the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act to the House floor. This act would block apps, or mostly app, that are owned by foreign adversaries, or mostly foreign adversary, from being listed on the App Store or Play Store. This bill passed through the House very quickly with a 352 to 65 vote with rare bipartisan support, and has also passed the Senate with also rare bipartisan support, partially due to it being lumped together with a bunch of other more popular bills. And the initial reaction to all this news that I've anecdotally seen across the internet is basically either, yay, I hate TikTok, it's so addicting, oh my god, or no, I love TikTok, it's so good and addicting. And then there's the serious people who are arguing whether a Chinese app should be the biggest app in the US, if they are an adversary, whether the US has a hidden monopolistic agenda that is more pro-Facebook and Google rather than anti-China, or whether this is even constitutional or not. All these reactions I'm hoping to address in this video. So before we get our hopes up or down, we need to address the elephant in the room. Is this thing already dead in the water? Okay, so there's a lot of perfect things that need to happen for this app to actually get banned. I even wrote them all out on this paper here, just so I could visualize it for myself. So I'll show that on the screen as I explain this. So first, what needs to happen, and has already happened, is that TikTok needs to pass through the House. And then what has just happened, actually, only a few days ago, is that it passed the Senate. This was actually a little bit surprising for me because as I was writing this video, it seemed like a lot of senators were hemming and hawing and a little bit more unsure about the TikTok bill in total. But since it was lumped together with another bill that was sending a bunch of money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, something that the government has been wanting to do for a very long time, the TikTok bill got passed with all those other measures. But before anything can take effect, TikTok CEO has already said that he will challenge the ruling in court. And from the experts I have looked into, he actually has a reasonable shot at saying that banning TikTok is unconstitutional. But let's say that his challenge somehow fails and that the law will go into effect. ByteDance now has a choice to either sell to a US company, with only a few actually being able to buy it due to the presumably incredibly high price tag, or be banned. And TikTok CEO has already said that he would rather be banned than be bought by a US company. Whether you believe him on that claim is up to you. Now, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, some of the few companies that would actually be able to afford TikTok would be big tech companies like Google, Facebook, or Apple, which would then raise antitrust lawsuits for having a monopoly, and maybe they wouldn't even want to go through it because of that. But for a lark, for some sort of sick joke, let's just say that nobody can buy it, and it actually gets banned. Phew! We finally made it to the end of this decision tree where TikTok actually finally gets banned. But did we really? Because if TikTok does miraculously get banned this time, I would argue that the damage is already done. The brain poison that is short form content has already seeped into Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. And in terms of a security threat, if there is data to be mined of Americans' scrolling habits, preferences, political opinions, it has kind of already been mined by China. I say that proverbially. China may have never gone to it yet, but if they wanted to know these things, they can access it after or just before it gets banned. And if our data is not even being mined by foreign adversaries, how about the mega corporations that we have here at home? Let's talk about the reasons why it's too late to ban TikTok. Number one is short form content. Cards on the table, I am not a fan of short form content. And the reason for that is I am a huge fan of short form content. It's incredibly addicting, it is not fulfilling like long form content, it shortens the attention span, and it endlessly interrupts my and any of its users' days. TikTok must be the only social media company that its users would actually cheer for the news of its deletion. I would also love to see data on this, but due to its addictiveness, it must be the most deleted and re-downloaded and deleted, etc. app in history. The app literally has its users behaving like drug addicts, trying to quit and then relapsing. So when Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and Snapchat Spotlight first came out, they sucked. I remember being awestruck at how much they sucked. I had just deleted TikTok because, well, it was too addicting, and thought that I would give Reels a spin. But every video was just boring travel reels, dumb trends, and nothing even remotely funny. If TikTok was crystal meth, Reels was like green tea in levels of addictiveness, and same with Shorts. And at this time in Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts existence, I and lots of other people were tempted to kind of deify the algorithm TikTok. That TikTok had figured something out that nobody else could figure out with their algorithm. But then their algorithms got better. I mean, Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts did at least. Spotlight kind of is the same as always. Reels and Shorts algorithms have gotten so much better. To now, I am almost as addicted to Shorts and Reels as I was with TikTok. They have also expanded their sound collection, filters, effects, and editing tools to be very competitive with TikTok. Both Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts are just missing one ingredient: a big user base to create content. Because don't get me wrong, Instagram and YouTube are unfathomably huge, but they just don't have the variety of types of content and niches that has made TikTok successful. To have such a huge variety of content, you need hundreds of millions of people making their own unique content. And while Instagram and YouTube have millions of users, they don't have the same amount of content creators that TikTok has. This is probably partially due to Instagram being a place where everyone's friends and families are, and that they don't want to risk posting cringy dances or an edgy joke on such a public and established site. And YouTube, on the other hand, is just kind of a hassle for any layman to casually sign up for a YouTube account, unless they actually want to be a full-on YouTuber. Now that being said, they both have the algorithm, and this can be shown by the retention data that has improved steadily over their existence. And they will be waiting for users with open arms the second a TikTok ban event happens. And sorry for that being a long walk for a short drink of water, but the point is this: TikTok has had a head start because they popularized the short-form swipeable content genre. And that head start has allowed them to have a majority market share in this business. But now YouTube and Instagram are right on their heels. And in the event that TikTok does get banned, YouTube and Instagram, or maybe a new TikTok-esque app like Triller, will swoop in and it will be as if nothing has ever happened. So I'm sorry to people who think that this is going to be some fix, that we will be done with short swipeable content. But it's honestly too late for that. Short form content and addictive short form content with great algorithms are here to stay. Now let's talk about the security threat. Now, admittedly, I am less well versed in foreign policy and US security than short form brain rot content. That's kind of my specialty. So this section may be a little shorter, but regardless, here's why a TikTok ban will do very little in protecting American citizens, in my dumb opinion. So the whole idea behind this ban that the senators actually care about, not about the brain rot content, is that the Chinese Communist Party could yoink a bunch of Americans' informations, including scrolling habits, political opinions, and much more, whatever it wants. And that using this information, they could propagandize, meddle with elections, and attempt to collapse America from the inside. Which to a senator who has never used TikTok totally makes sense that they would think that. And while there is case to be made that these things are possible through TikTok, I would argue that worse propaganda and meddling has already happened in the 2016 election by the likes of Russia. And they did it through an American social media company, sorta small, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Facebook. There may be some concern for ByteDance being a Chinese company, but the internet is the internet, and it seems a little too late to be worried that people in other countries may have influence on America when that has been the primary function of the internet since it was created. The primary function being to connect people from around the world. In the event that TikTok does get banned, whichever company picks up its user base would be just as susceptible to meddling and interference from the CCP or anybody with money and resources. My argument here isn't insanely bulletproof though, because I do think that the US could prevent potential Chinese interference with this ban. My main point though is just that Pandora's box is already open. If I was China, there are other ways that I could propagandize and meddle with the US if I wanted to, via bot-targeted ads, bots commenting and posting misinformation, hacking, and cyber warfare that can be done on any big social media app other than TikTok or whatever takes its place. China doesn't need a backdoor to TikTok to propagandize. The internet, in the form that it is right now, lends itself to propaganda, just naturally. And this is especially true considering the way that modern algorithms are set up, and you can see my last few videos for more on that. Now, I'm also aware that some of the more conspiratorial types on the far left are arguing that a bill is being proposed by the US government so that they can be the ones controlling the propaganda of the media, and that they want to be the only ones spying and influencing Americans, not China. They would argue that this is a perfect example of some Noam Chomsky manufactured consent, where the government needs to be in control of the media. And to these arguments, I will say this. I don't think so. I mean, to some extent, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube do control some of the news and information that we see. But I don't believe that these apps have the kind of power that someone like Noam Chomsky would argue. I am still seeing a large amount of pro-Palestine footage and narratives in my YouTube and Instagram Reel feeds, despite these feeds being hosted by US companies who are supposed to allegedly have a pro-Israel governmental slant. At this point, I really do think that the platforms that Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok have created are bigger than the companies themselves. And with that, the companies don't have a grand control of the algorithm and what every specific user gets to see, as some of these conspiratorial types might allege. These huge companies can't even contain one creator, such as Andrew Tate, after banning him from appearing on their sites. Like, seriously, this dude is basically irrelevant, and there are still burner accounts posting his dumbass on my feed. But the same lack of control is evidenced with things like Twitch and Instagram's nudity problem, YouTube showing child years back, unmanaged cyberbullying, and anti-USA sentiment prevailing on every platform. So with that in mind, I have a hard time believing that they have the control available to actually effectively suppress anything worthwhile without being caught. To me, whether TikTok is CCP controlled or government controlled, it's not really controlled at all. Okay, so whether it gets banned or not, if I was a betting man, I would bet not. TikTok's existence has stimulated an appetite in the Western world for short-form, swipeable content. And while people maybe pump that the original factory for making this addictive drug of content will finally be deleted, it's too late because the formula to make this drug has been copied countless times already. And while the original factory of TikTok may have been made in China, short-form swipeable content is merely a platform where information gets shared, which no matter where it is, will get infiltrated by adversaries, whether it's TikTok's platform or one close to home. I wish I could zoom back in time before short-form content existed and somehow divert the timeline in a different direction, away from this swipeable garbage that lends itself to propaganda. But I can't, because whether it's secret CCP propaganda or mind-melting stupid content that you're consuming every day, you have control over what you believe and the content that you choose to consume. My name's Jonah, thank you for watching. Say what you really mean.